Hi and welcome back to Ebelleste. This is Michael Only, and today we are going to be looking at how we did the stepping stones for the first hole. We'll look at foam shaping, foam coating, blacklight artwork, and resin coating. We'll also talk about the mistakes that we made along the way so that you can do better. Our hope is that anyone who watches this video can recreate what we did, and we would love to see how it turned out for you. This hole was originally hole number 3 of the Wonders of Utah miniature golf course from 2004 up to 2010, and was supposed to represent the snow skiing in the state. It was a simple hole that had a few bumps in it for obstacles. In 2010, we redecorated a little but left most of the hole the same with the small bump obstacles. Back then we would redecorate it for the Halloween season, and we were just starting to remodel this hole in 2015 as part of our ruined fortress theme before we left that summer. This partial wall is still there with the lines for the stone blocks ready to be painted. For this design, we wanted to update it a bit, and where it would now be the first hole, we wanted to make a good first impression. The overall theme will be a twilight garden, and we wanted to have a stepping stone path through the trees for the entrance. As these early sketches show, we were originally planning on having the trees be maple trees with maple leaves on the ground. However, the previous owners had the miniature golf with a slightly haunted theme for the past 5 years, and I had noticed that some of the younger children didn't want to play the miniature golf because of that. I was concerned that the maple trees might be a little too imposing and that they might make some of the younger kids too scared to enter, remembering the previous, well, scary for them theme. Because of this, we decided to go with cherry trees and blossom instead of the maples. We have always liked blossoming cherry trees and decided that the light pink petals would be more welcoming and set the tone for the rest of the course. We'll go over the trees in a later video. For this hole, we needed to start with the stepping stones, and in order to do that, we needed to remove the carpet first. With the carpet removed, we were able to remove the bumps that, as we would learn, were made with standard base molding that was glued and screwed into the floor. With the bumps removed, we were ready to remove the carpet adhesive. We tried a few different methods, sanding, heat, and scraping, but the best method for us was using a wide wood chisel to scrape the adhesive off. We found a part that had some water damage from the leaky roof that would need to be repaired. We simply sanded this down, and then we filled in all gaps, holes, and scratches with wood filler. This project took a few coats of wood filler and sanding before everything was smooth. The original hole was a simple pipe end cap. This works just fine, however, we wanted to be able to have holes in the bottom for an LED light, and we wanted to be able to add flags in the future. To make this easier for us, we got new cups. These were just a little wider than the pipe end caps, so we needed to make the hole just a little bigger. With the old cup removed, we were ready to add the LED light to the new cup. The drain holes in these cups worked perfect for the LED light, so we just needed to cut a little notch in the bottom for the wiring. We used a 12-inch LED light strip for this that we got at Home Depot. The strip had a sticky back, but we needed to add some adhesive so that it would stick better. Then we needed to drill a hole for the extension cord for the light. A 1.5-inch drill bit worked for this. Putting it all together, we tested the LED light and used the remote to set it to a color fade cycle. Now came time to do the stepping stones. We cut these out of a 1/2-inch foam board, and we spent a lot of time shaping these, but that turned out to be a little bit of a waste because the foam hard coat hid all of our details. With the cherry blossoms, we thought it would be fun to have a cherry blossom shaped stone as a T-mat. We made this on the computer with DataCAD and printed a template that we used to shape the foam. We used an adhesive to place the stepping stones, however we probably could have just used the foam hard coat for that. Next we coated the foam with the hardener. We used the exterior foam coat from the hot wire foam factory. Using it alone, we found it to be a little too soft because it needed to be a thin coat so that the stones wouldn't stick out too high. We did a second coat with their boost additive, and that made it much stronger. If we had used a mesh fiber, that would have made it even stronger. Then we used a window weatherproofing silicone along the edge so that the resin wouldn't drain into the cracks. At this point, we ran into some complications. We had gotten to what was supposed to be 5 gallons of black paint from Lowe's, however it turned out to be gray. We got actual black paint from Home Depot. Then it started to rain and the roof leaks damaged some of the works that we had done. We had to do some quick repairs before we could proceed. With those repairs done, we were ready to paint everything black. The area between the stepping stones and the edge of the hole would be black, and the stepping stones needed to have a black base for dry brushing. Next came a non-glowing white coat. This would help make the fluorescent colors pop. We dry brushed this on and we varied the amounts of white that we applied. This will cause color variations with the fluorescent paint and will give more depth to the stepping stones. With that done, we could paint the stones with the fluorescent paint. You can get infinite hues by mixing the fluorescent paint, and you can even mix fluorescent paint with regular non-glowing paint. This will darken the color, and the color of the non-glowing paint will affect the fluorescent color. Just remember that with black lights, your artwork is the light source. My wife likes to tell those who she teaches that it's like painting with light. This is very important to remember when mixing fluorescent paint. For the fluorescent paint, we highly recommend the paint from Wildfire FX. We haven't found any other brand with comparable quality. With the fluorescent paint, we dry brushed this on in layers of varying hues. This will add depth to the stones and give them a more realistic texture and look. Once again, it's important to remember that with black lights, your art is the light source and will affect how the colors are perceived. Switch between black lights and regular lights as you mix your colors and paint so that it will look good in both lights. That's one mistake that we had made previously. We didn't care what it looked like in regular lights because we intended it for it to only be viewed in black lights. Then customers took pictures with flash on and posted them online, which looked absolutely terrible. We learned from that mistake and, this time, we're taking the time to make it look good in both types of lighting. We wanted to have moss around the stepping stones, and that was a bit of a challenge. Any types of moss that we bought would have to be painted white and then painted to glow in black lights. We looked at many different types of moss at varying online stores, but we couldn't find any that we liked, so we ultimately decided to make our own. For this, we started with white paper from a paper shredder, and we spray painted that with green fluorescent paint and misted it occasionally with yellow fluorescent paint. This looked okay, but was a little too consistent in size for what we were wanting. So we took about half of it and put it in a blender to shred the paper even more. Then we added some black and brown shredded paper to the mix. This doesn't glow, however, because the yellow and green paper emits light, the non-glowing brown and black add to the overall look. We then used some white glue to place the moss around the stepping stones. This only needed to be sufficient until we got the resin poured. With the resin, we used the standard self-leveling resin so that it would be flat and have minimal impact with how the golf ball would roll. We poured the resin in 3 sets. First, we taped off around the hole and other areas that we didn't want the resin to drain into. We did the black areas to the side of the stepping stones first. With this, we added some fine glitter to the resin. It doesn't show in black lights, but it does show in LED lights around the hole. This went very smoothly. We used a butane torch to get the air bubbles out, and it looked really good. When that dried, we scratched it with a 200 grit sandpaper and placed the cherry blossoms by letting them fall from around 2 feet up. This gave the petals a more natural look. The cherry petals were made from a template that we had created in DataCAD, and then we used mostly toilet paper and crepe paper to make the petals. Once cut out, we lightly painted them with a very watered-down fluorescent neon pink paint from Wildfire FX. With this, we should have poured the second resin coat before placing the petals. Doing the resin coat after created a lot of difficulties that could have been avoided. Anyway, for the second resin coat, we started with the stepping stones and then we poured it over the flat areas. During this, our butane torch stopped working and we didn't have a spare, so we couldn't get all of the air bubbles out. This actually worked in our favor though, because it made the resin look a little more like water. When the second resin coat dried, we noticed that there were several sharp spots on the stones and the moss. We used a Dremel tool to smooth these out, and then we sanded everything for the final resin coat. This last one went really smoothly because we didn't need to worry about the moss or cherry blossoms moving. With that last coat dry, we cleaned up and we were done with that part. Thank you for watching. We hope that you return for our next video.